Aire whole house humidifier. The model number is a 500M. We're going to be installing it on this gas furnace. And we're going to be installing it on the return, more specifically right in here. So we're going to go step by step on how we're going to do it, what materials we're going to use, what tools we're going to use. And then at the end I'll tell you whether or not I think you should try it yourself, or if you should have a professional do it. Let's get started. Alright, we have unboxed the Aire 500 series whole house humidifier. This is a bypass humidifier, so as you can tell by the damper right here. First things first, I don't care if you're a professional and you've done 100 of these, or if this is your very first time doing one, I would highly recommend taking a look at the instructions before getting started. Should give you a good idea of exactly what you're going to need to do this install, and what tools you should need, and just the proper operation on how to do these things. So I'm going to take a glance at these, see what we need to get done, and then we're going to go ahead and get started by cutting our holes up top. Alright, first things first, we're going to go ahead and take our instructions, and they double as a template for the cutout that we're going to have to do on the return here. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing squared up on my return and use this as a template, and I'm just going to go ahead and trace it all the way around. Alright, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut that piece out right there, and that's where we're going to mount our humidifier at. And then the second thing I'm going to do before I mount that up is we're going to put our control for it up here. Now that I got my holes marked out where I want them, here and here, I'm going to go ahead and drill the corner of each of these and then get my tin snips and cut them out. Alright, now before I get these mounted in here, what I am going to do is go ahead and run the wire, the low voltage wire, from the humidistat, and I'll come out through this hole right here to the humidifier, and then I'll be running another wire down through here inside the ductwork into the furnace itself. That's going to tie into a transformer. I'm going to show you guys that here later once we get to the electrical part, but I'm going to go ahead and run the wire now, that way it's out of my way and I can get it done. Alright, now that we got our wire in, I've got a short piece of wire. It's going to go from the humidistat to the humidifier, and then from the humidifier down to the furnace. So I'm going to go ahead and connect these wires to the humidistat first, and then mount my humidistat so it's done and out of the way. And then I'll go ahead and mount my humidifier, and then we can do my wiring for the humidifier. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and mount this humidistat. Humidistat's on. Now we're going to go ahead and mount our humidifier. Alright, it's on nice and tight now. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to tie we got two strands of wires here. I'm using red and white. I'm going to tie red from one wire, red from the other wire to both of these yellows. And then I'm going to tie the two white wires from each one and tie them together. So and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire that in series according to the wire diagram that was provided inside of the instructions. So it's just easy enough to follow those instructions, and I'll go over exactly how to wire it in the furnace here once we get to that part. But for now we're just going to wire those together, and then we'll move on to the next step of tying in the ductwork. nice and neat now, tied together. So we're going to go ahead and start on the ductwork now. I'm going to go ahead and get my airtight. I'll get it mounted somewhere up in here, and then just a short piece of pipe to connect the two. So I'll go ahead and get this lined out, get the hole cut, get the piece up on here, and go from there. Goes off the sticky. Airtight. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put all the guts into this thing and close it up. Got the ductwork done, got the cover and everything on it, got the humidistat done, wiring here. So why don't we go ahead and go down and let's finish wiring down here at the furnace. I'll show you guys what we're going to do. Alright, so in the kit for the humidifier, they include a little transformer. So from the previous step we ran our wire, so all I'm going to do is tie my red and my white wire coming from this to my two wires here on the top. Those are my low voltage terminals. My two high voltage terminals I'm going to tie into the board here. There's specifically a spot for humidifier. Let's see if you can see that. It's abbreviated HUM. It's the bottom terminal right there. And then we're going to tie the black wire to that, and then the other wire we're just going to tie into neutral. So that's HUM neutral right there. And then HUM is, it's kind of hard to see back here. It's on the side here. It's got a little white plug on it. You can see the little white spade on it. So we're going to get it tied to there, and then I'll make it look all nice and neat into here. We'll be right back once we get that done. Alright, I've got some spade terminals that I'm going to go ahead and crimp on these. Make it a lot easier just to plug right on the board. So alright, all that is left now is tying in the water line, the water supply, and the drain. So the customer already has a condensate pump over here, so I'm just going to route this drain in a condensate tubing, run it down along the top of the furnace, make it look all nice. And then what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to tap into the hot water line. So as you can see, there used to be a water heater sitting right here. So I'm actually going to tee into it right up here with the fitting and come across with a nice little braided hose going right over the top of it. So we will get started on that. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start off with the drain. I have got a 1/2 inch vinyl hose that we're going to be using. Just going to push up over that. You could get a hose clamp to clamp that thing on nice and tight, but I'm going to have some hole straps here to be holding it up anyways and to route it over, and it's not going to come out. Alright, now that the drain is ran down into the condensate pump, we're going to go ahead and put a new fitting on right here. and tie in a hose over to here. First things first, we're gonna have to turn off the hot water. That way we can get the water out of this line. All right, I've got my water turned off. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this. Be good to put something down on the ground here, because most likely there is going to be water still in this line. Not too bad. I'm going to go ahead and put my fitting on here. All right, that's what's nice about shark bite fittings. Doesn't take too long, not a whole lot of cutting or anything else to do. Now I just need to connect my fitting here to my fitting on the water valve here. And then all we got left to do is to test it. So in order to do all that, I did go ahead and pick me up a braided cord, just a little 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch compression fitting. What I like about using this one is it's got rubber gaskets in it, so I don't have to worry about the compression part of it. Those gaskets do the job of that. So I'm going to go ahead and get that put on, neaten everything up, and then we're going to test it out. Alright, I got the water line tied in. Like I said, I use that stainless steel braided hose. Ran it across the top, tied it in right over here. I always try to make things look as nice as possible. Had a little extra hose here, so just spooled it up. Got my valve turned on. Make sure we don't have any more leaks. Now all we got left to do is to test it. Alright, I got the power onto the furnace. I got the unit in heat mode, because this will only work in heat mode. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this dial down to test. You can hear a click, and you can hear the water start to run. And what we'll do is we'll verify once this thing starts running, we'll start to see little water droplets be running down this drain tube. So we'll just watch it here for just a minute. Alright, and you can already start to see a couple of the water droplets running down. There we go. So we don't want a whole lot of that running down, because we want most of that going in our airstream. So I'm going to go ahead and back off this water valve that I put up here. I'm going to go ahead and close it off just a little bit, so we're not just dumping and being wasteful. What we want is most of that water to be absorbed into the humidifier pad and then to go into the airstream. So we've got it metered off there. We'll let it run for a little bit and look at it again here. Might even give it a couple of days of running. So, all right, that is it. Make sure that our damper is in the winter position. That way the air is blowing through the humidifier pad and into the ductwork. But that is it for this episode. Like I said, this is a brand new series called D.I.Y or Hire. So I will tell you my honest opinion after doing all of this is definitely a hire job, not a DIYer. For that reason, you have to do some electrical, like what we saw over here. You have to do some duct work over here. You have to do plumbing with the water line. When you do all that stuff, there's just a lot of stuff that you have to know in order to do that and to be safe about it. So for that reason, I would definitely do hire on this one. I can tell you in my area, putting in one of these Aire 500 series is going to run you $800 to $1,000 installed. To whereas if you just bought one online or from a local retailer, you're probably looking at a few $100s. So there's not a whole lot of savings to have by doing it yourself. I'll go ahead and get that sticker off there too. So I would definitely just hire this one out. But tell me what you guys think. Leave me a comment below. Would you DIY or would you hire?